everyone, my name is Noah of the Arc Truth, and today we're going to be talking about the Democratic Party fundraising in Mexico. Yeah, you heard that correctly. The Democrats are that desperate to get some money because of how bad the situation is, how bad 2020 is looking. I mean, forget about the current Democratic candidates already trying to vie for the Democratic vote. Forget all of that. They are just being destroyed in terms of finances. So let's have some backstory about this whole entire situation. Because of the massive loss of 2016, and of course the making some game at least in the House of Representatives back in the 2018 midterms, the Democrats have been in major amounts of debt. In fact, they are $8 million in debt right now, compared to the Republicans, who actually have no debt whatsoever. In fact, Donald Trump, in his own campaign, actually managed to raise way more than all Democrat candidates combined. He's currently at $132 million in terms of donations and fundraisers, which is kind of surprising, or it's kind of and a little bit funny because of how this only shows how bad the Democratic candidates are, as well as how bad the Democratic Party is in terms of trying to promote itself to the American public. So in order to get at as much money as possible, Tom Perez, the chairman of the Democratic National Committee, is flying over to Mexico. And he is trying to appeal to Americans there to donate to the Democratic Party. A lot of these happen to be upper class, very rich people who can afford living overseas. But I don't know if this is going to help the Democratic Party in their desperate hour. And I'm not just talking about them being in specifically the 2020 elections. I mean about finances in general. Just right now, the Democratic Party is completely messed up to its core. There's a big schism. The candidates are boring. They are just especially their policies are very too radical for the average American. And like I said before, they are $8 million in debt. $8 million in debt. And all this doing is shows the desperation of the Democrats. It shows no strength. It only shows weakness. If you're that desperate to campaign in another country, that only shows weakness. You're trying to get some outside help. Well, when I say outside help, I don't mean from foreign nationals or foreign governments. Although if you do look at the headline with Tom Perez creating a fundraiser in Mexico, that would definitely leave you the impression of that's how it's going down. Although it is not how it's not how it's working out to be. That's not completely the case at all. In fact, he's just trying to get rich Americans from overseas to just help the Democratic Party out. And again, I do not believe that this is going to help the Democrats at all. Because this happens to be a bigger issue than just finances. This happens ever since the 2016 election and the rise of these far left the rise of the far left faction in the Democratic Party after the 2018 elections. The Democrats just don't know what to do. They're trying to search for themselves, to trying to reform their own party, to try to return it to out somewhere in the middle between the left and the moderates. So that way they would not only continue to have their support of the progressives, but to still be pretty reasonable to the moderates. And that's not really the case at all, especially with the progressives and the far left factions taking over the Democrats. As a matter of fact, it's I find this very funny. Ever since Donald Trump made that tweet about the squad, how they should go back to their communities, implement those socialist policies, and come back to show us how it's done. It only just made them to be the heads of the Democratic Party, de facto, not de jure. Not de jure. That's how it still goes to Tom Perez and of course Nancy Pelosi and a few other people. But nonetheless, these guys happen to be the faces of the Democratic Party, and people are just turned off by that. That is how bad this situation is. And again, they are this desperate to go to Mexico in order to raise campaign funds. It's kind of funny to me because the Democratic Party has been criticizing Trump for allegedly being supported by Russia, getting all their information, just becoming a puppet of Vladimir Putin. After the Mueller report, it shows that wasn't the case. There was no evidence to convict Trump of any such things, and yet they're going to Mexico to try to get fundraisers. Now, again, like I said before, they are only trying to get money from Americans from overseas countries. But again, it's not. This image of just going to Mexico just would make it look like the Democratic Party was being hypocritical. And I think that's how bad and how funny the current state of the Democratic Party is. Right now, the problem isn't really their finances, although that is definitely a part of it. Their major problem is trying to find their soul, trying to find a good balance between the left and the moderate, so that way they would finally figure out a way in order to get the moderate vote back. But unfortunately, thanks to the propping up of far left politicians such as AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, you are getting the exact opposite. A lot of the moderates are turned off about the situation that the Democratic Party is in, and many of them are even so desperate to actually consider voting for Trump. I'm pretty sure that a lot of independents are now thinking of voting for Trump in 2020 instead of which some have actually said before that they didn't vote for him back in 2016. I find that kind of concerning if I were a Democrat. And yeah, it's funny to me because the entire time from 2016 to 2020, the Democratic Party has been stumbling. Honestly, I don't think I would have made these kind of mistakes. That's how bad it is. It's so obvious how badly their decisions are making. It's completely isolating themselves from the moderates who they need to win. But of course, there is that far left that is very vocal, very regressive. It's how they prefer their way, or we beat the living crap out of you, or just publicly shame you. So yeah, it's completely hilarious about the state of the Democratic Party. Now, I know that a lot of people are going to say that Trump did sort of the same thing, which is true. He did the same thing back in 2016. He is certainly doing that right now in 2020. However, he has been very critical about donor base because of how in favor they are of the establishment, and how many of them are just in support of the Democratic Party, and how they just honestly they don't care about the average American. After all, that's why you see him go do his own thing in one of these major rallies that he goes off it to, because he wants to be more connected to the average American. Now, again, he does go into fundraisers, but he's more into the idea of being with average Americans, and that's why a lot of people voted for him. He connects to them. He understands their issues, their concerns. And that is partially what, and that I think is why, as long as he keeps up that image, that is going to be what helps him win the second term. I am very confident that he will win the second term, in my honest opinion. I do not see how the Democrats can really pull off, especially with the whole issue of finances. They are that desperate, and just the whole issue that the Democratic Party is in with $8 million in debt only proves the idea of the meme "Get woke, go broke," which, if none of you have ever heard of that, which I'm pretty sure all of you have already done, it's where you get into the whole identity politics, far left political agenda, just insert into everything, and then as a result, you lose money and you get broke, and that's basically what's been going on. And it's completely funny how the Democrats are especially putting that into practice. I do not see them winning 2020, and I think their financial problems right now are just going to be the very beginning. I certainly believe that is the case. My name is Omiya, the Arc Truth. Please post your comments down below, like this video, subscribe, and share with your friends. Also, if you have any criticisms about how I make my videos, or how I speak, how I do my commentary, please either directly message me or put them in the comments down below. Thank you.
Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains.